All right, so today we're going to talk about parasites. In October, we're doing a group parasite cleanse, and it's not a topic that I think is talked about enough. And with Halloween, I thought it's a perfect month, kind of spooky, kind of eerie to talk about bugs and worms. And joining me is a patient who's so generously offered to talk about it. So we're going to dig into the parasites, but I'm going to introduce you to Susan and let her tell you a little bit about her story, just briefly, kind of everything you came in with, what you knew, what you didn't know. And yeah, thank you, Susan, for joining us. Welcome.
Oh, sure. No, thanks for having me. I appreciate having this opportunity. I guess kind of as an overview and a background, I remember coming to you probably about a couple of years ago for a lot of different issues. Chronic Lyme was one of them, and you've helped me quite a bit with that. During this course, I've realized that I actually had parasites. And I went through a couple of tests that came up negative. And so they're like, oh, you don't have parasites. But I remember kind of starting like with Mimosa pudica and things like that, and I actually started seeing clear evidence of parasites.
So let me back up right there. You've done
Yeah.
stool tests that have shown no parasites.
That's right.
That is something worth talking about for just a second. I do like to run stool tests. There's a lot we can get from a stool test. It can tell us bacteria, fungus, if we've got leaky gut, low good bacteria, and it does have a worms and parasites section in most stool tests.
Mhm.
Not the stool test you might get at your Western medicine doctor. I'm talking more even a functional medicine doctor stool test. And those still came back negative.
Correct.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure we ran one. We were just talking, and it also came back negative. But you started taking this herb, Mimosa pudica, that is a known parasite cleanse. And that's when you started having some evidence of parasites, and you're like, wait a second, there's something going on here. And then we dug into it a little deeper. Tell us about your digestive kind of just history up to taking that, up until you took that herb.
Yeah, sure. So for most of my life that I can remember, I've always been constipated, like pretty bad constipated. I didn't really realize how bad, but I mean, typically I would have a bowel movement like every 5 days.
So I'm going to stop you there too, because when I think, especially like the American public hears parasites, we think diarrhea, loose stools. Like, that's, I think, what most people think. Oh, I went to a third world country, I drank the water, I had diarrhea, and it must have been a parasite, which most of the time, those are bacteria, like E. coli and Giardia and things like that. They're not even always parasites. We just think that. I think that's a misconception. So I see that all the time. Parasites can cause gas, bloating, constipation, weight gain, and we just think it's loose stools and weight loss. So constipation every 5 days since as long as you can remember.
Pretty much, yeah. And it'd be pretty significant. I mean, it would cause a lot of pain and some bleeding and stuff. But I mean, I was kind of embarrassed. And I mean, I knew it wasn't normal, but I just didn't know really how bad this actually was. And you really need to have a bowel movement at least once a day in order to detox and your body just to kind of work normally. And so this was kind of like one of the major steps that, I'm working through to try to make sure that I can, become healthier and feel better.
Yeah. So you're not new to digestive work. We've done, work on your digestive system, leaky gut work, and still constipated. And then we went ahead and did the cell core cleanse. And we didn't even do it at a full moon time, but tell me kind of how you felt on the cleanse.
Yeah. So there was like the para 1 and para 2, which actually helps get rid of the parasites, and that includes the Mimosa pudica.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say that with conjunction of enemas, which I wasn't looking too forward to doing, but now I'm totally like, okay, this is a good thing.
Yes, that is something I am going to suggest to our cleanse group, that, enemas, coffee enemas, any type of enema can help move those along. Yes. And again, the Mimosa pudica is an herb, a botanical in this cleanse. So just if people don't know what that is, it's in the remedies of this cleanse.
Yeah. And so when I started out with that, I start, with the mimosa pudica, you can actually I actually would see large worm looking things, very long, very easily distinguishable, coming out in my stools and stuff. And it's continual. I would see them. Yeah, I was really surprised that there would be that many. Yeah.
When we did the cell core cleanse, it was different, right? They were bigger and longer and different. Yeah. So it was purging different worms essentially. And we decided they were rope worms is what they look like.
Yeah, I believe so. So looking at that in some more detail with the rope worms, and what I can see is, some people say, oh, well, that's technically not parasite, or it is, or that's actually where they have a lot of people who have rope worms. They don't come up as a positive test on these tests. And so that was kind of, to me, I was like, oh, okay, so this might be what this is. And I started doing further research, and I think there was Dr. Gubarev or something, and there was some pictures, and I'm like, oh my goodness, yes. And I'm like checking, and I'm like, okay, yep, it's rope worms. And so there's different things that you can try, and one of those is mimosa pudica, and then as well as the enemas and things like that. I would say the coffee enemas and other types of enemas like that, you actually can see more of them coming out visibly. And the mimosa pudica also helps pull them out too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you didn't do it at a full moon, right? We just went for it.
Right. Yeah. So some of the things that I noticed on that is, if you are in a state to where, let's say maybe you are not having regular bowel movements, it's actually recommended that you might do the full moon kit at a slower, kind of a beginner level.
Yes. There's a beginner, I think intermediate and advanced. Yep.
Yes. And in order to make sure, because what happens is, from what I'm understanding, is if you kind of go at it too quick, you can actually cause the parasites just to basically get aggravated, maybe proliferate. And you want to make sure that or give out kind of toxins and stuff, right? Which could make you feel not good. And so you want to basically balance that out to make sure that you are hitting the parasites and also pulling them out of your body so they're not causing more harm.
Yeah, you don't want to just tick them off, right?
Yep.
So that's a really good point, because in this full moon cleanse we're going to offer, there's beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And, a lot of us think, well, if a little bit's good, less is, more is better. And that's not necessarily the case. You got to have just the right. So most people will start with the beginner level unless they've done multiple parasite cleanses. Is there anything you wish you knew going into the cleanse that you now know? Anything just kind of with the experience?
Yeah. So I would say, as I'm going through this, and I think it's happened enough times to where I can kind of confirm this. It's not just something that's psychological, but it seems like each time I remove, especially like these larger ones, I actually feel better. I feel more content, more happy, more balanced. There's just not so much instability, and I think it might connect with how they say, like sometimes 80 to 90% of your serotonin and all these kind of things are in your digestive system. And so the more you get that in balance, the actual better I feel, the better I'm able to cope with stress and things like that. And so it makes me more willing to say, okay, I don't have to hit it all at once. It's a journey. And with each step, I actually feel some positive results that say, okay, yeah, I'm on the right track. So
if I could have asked you to say something, it would have been that. I did not prep her to say that, prep you to say that, right? So I literally wrote the blog today and literally dove deep into how serotonin, GABA, and melatonin are affected by parasites in your gut for exactly that reason, because these guts are in these parasites are in the gut lining, and in the gut lining is where most of your neurochemicals are made. So people that have a lot of anxiety or irritability either before their cycle when there's a big shift and change, and or before the full moon, and they're irritable, can't sleep, depressed, angry. It could be parasites. And I wrote in the blog about when in my other career, I was an x-ray tech in Flint, Michigan. I worked second shift in radiology, never failed when there's a full moon. We're like, all the crazy things are going to happen, more gunshot wounds, more stabbings, more people in labor, more domestic violence. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And now I know why. So through my second career and, doing this 15 years, I've had so many ahas, and mood and brain chemicals are a huge symptom, imbalance in mood and brain chemicals of parasites. And so I'm super excited to see what happens with this group that's going to cleanse. Any other thoughts or advice for them, or just kind of last kind of words? Don't get freaked out. That's my first advice. But yeah, anything else?
Yeah, I guess so. One of the things is, from what I understand, and I kind of feel this way, is most people actually have parasites. They just don't realize it, think, oh, in the country we live in, that doesn't exist. I really don't think that's the case.
Absolutely.
Especially on the diets that we have, it creates a system where there's an imbalance, and you're going to have opportunistic pathogens in there willing to take advantage of that moment. And I have noticed another thing is, as I'm getting eating more healthy and getting rid of these parasites, those intense hunger pains that you're like, oh, I've got to have this, I got to have that. I don't really have that anymore. And then,
cravings. We see cravings go down, right? Like parasites crave sugar and processed foods. And I mean, talking about our diets, right? The meat quality that we get here, or even at like fast food restaurants, say meat-like substance kind of thing. Yeah, that stuff is opportunistic for parasites and bad bugs. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And so it really has helped to kind of balance a lot of things. So, I'm kind of one of those where I was a lot of times depressed, a lot of times, I would say pretty severe anxieties, and I was on a lot of prescription medicines and things like that. I'm not on any prescription medicines now.
Yay, that's so amazing. That's what it's all about. That's, in the state and the world that we're in, like, the less amount of prescriptions you can be on and the healthier you are, like, the better, right? Wherever you're at with the whole COVID situation, like, now is the time to be the healthiest you can be and not dependent on prescriptions. That's a huge win.
Yeah, and I guess maybe as a kind of a final point is, sometimes, kind of when you start this venture, you're like, okay, you might get overwhelmed. You're like, oh, I can't do this. But any little step that you can do, that's one step into your journey. It's not a complete destination, it's a journey. And you're finding things out, and you kind of might even look at it kind of like a little bit experiment, which makes it kind of fun, right? Say, oh, okay, this and that. But it definitely is worth it. And you can have good days and bad days and things like that. But I've really seen that my good days are a lot more, the bad days are a lot less, and it just keeps going kind of in that direction.
That's awesome. That's great perspective. Yeah, and where you got it from, who knows, right? You don't have to have been to a third world country. We now know you can get parasites from your dog licking your face. Hopefully you didn't hear my dog panting back here. Your dog licking your face, kids biting your fingernails, eating sushi without the wasabi helps kill parasites, eating off a salad bar. How many lunchtimes did I run through the Whole Food salad bar before it was shut down? It's back up now, but there's so many places we can get parasite bugs that I just read something that not taking your shoes off if you're like in the garden or in the dirt and tracking it through the house and then playing on the floor with a child, like, don't even think about these things, right? That's all opportunistic parasitic places.
Yeah.
And we don't know. We just have to move forward, kill them the best we can. I'm thinking it's something people should do once a year. Would you do it again, even on the full moon, even monthly?
Oh, yeah. So I would continue. In fact, I would like to get to the step where I'm actually doing the advanced full moon, because I've actually kind of done the intermediate and the beginner and things like that. So yeah, I'd I'm still going to continue this journey.
Awesome. Well, I'm counting on you to be in our group then with it and give people some good pointers. Okay. Well, Susan, thank you again for meeting with me. I know it's, we're meeting on a Friday evening. It's been a week for everybody all the time. So I appreciate it. And any last thoughts?
Well, I guess just, I appreciate, all that you've done and the effort that you've made. You've been amazingly patient and listening to, all my issues and complaints and helping me through this. And I really am thankful for that. And I'm thankful of all the progress that I've made, and it actually has been worthwhile. So,
awesome.
Yeah, just anybody that wants to try this, don't give up and keep trying, and you'll see results.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Welcome. Thank you so much too.